Hey guys, Doug Marcaida here. How's everybody doing on this beautiful Friday afternoon? Decided to take a walk. It is warm up here in the Northeast, but not so bad. And when I get a chance, I try to go to the outdoors just so that I can enjoy the beauty of it all. A lot of times, we talk about these things about taking a lot of things for granted. But do we ever take for granted just the outdoors, God's country, God's creation, and how so much, we get so caught up with everyday things we forget to stop and just listen. Just be out here and marvel at the beauty that is just around you. Even the undeveloped art that's out there. And I love that because that's exactly what I want to do. Just get out here and just enjoy nature. But in my walks, I try to also multitask. If I'm going to be able to go out and walk, I do a lot of my thinking when I'm out here. I also try to get in some of my workouts. And today we're going to do, as part of Karalbit Talk, some of the workouts I do as a solo martial artist when I'm out there. Training is an all-the-time thing. If you think about always setting aside certain times for it, you're not going to be able to actually set time. There's no perfect time, but now. It's just the now, right? So what I try to do is on my walk, then I'll put some training, because whenever I have to use it all the time. So when they say, when have you ever used your martial arts? I live it. I live it thinking that it is a philosophy of try to do the best you can to improve yourself when you have the time. And that's what I'm trying to do. So when I'm out here, I usually try to find spots that are here for my Karalbit trainer so I can train. And I will ask my buddy over here, Mr. Pine Tree, if he could be kind enough to be my feeder. I don't have a training partner today. So he was nice enough to give me a lot of his nice little new grown soft branches here so that I have a point of reference to move around. I'm not going to be cutting the branches. I'm using a trainer that's dull, but at least it gives me a perspective of distancing, of movement from my point of view. Limited because of the camera on my own. I just go around, run through the forest, enjoy myself. The topography, I like walking on uneven surfaces because then that's also the leg work. A lot of times when I do videos, I have to stay within the frame of the camera. I don't have cameramen. I do everything myself. So it's just a hobby of enjoying what's going on. But, what I love about this is that you can train everywhere, anywhere, because you're never really needing anything but imagination. That's it. Have the ability to take your mind to places that no one has ever gone, and it's in here. Because where the mind goes, the body will follow. Can you really prove yesterday in all certainty happened except it was a memory? You think it was real. So it is the mind that tells us it was real or not. Was it a dream or reality? It doesn't matter. But if I saw myself walking and doing this yesterday, how do I know it was real or not? So that's the way I try to think of things in terms of having that creative mind. And in this case, using that same creative mind to train. So being that I am in the process of doing the Karalbit Unleashed and having that whole program and project that I wanted to do with Ray Dionaldo. And who's Ray Dionaldo? Well, he is the creator of Filipino Combat Systems, his own Filipino martial arts system. And Ray was one of the guys who actually inspired me to up my game when I was doing the Karalbit. And so one of those days when I was out here walking around and just on reflection and contemplate, so I go, I'm on the last quarter of my life. And when it gets to that point, when you're in the beginning, your whole world is ahead of you and you have all these things that you want to find. You want to find your purpose. You want to find your passion. You develop it. And when you do, you have many that you try out. And then what do you do with it? Well, you learn it like I did. I learned my martial art and I really put myself into it and I got to develop it, train it, meet so many people along the way, make friends with it. And then eventually it did a lot for me too. I got to do it as a living. I got to do it as a passion. But now that I've almost put so much time in it, in my last quarter, I want to prepare, which is a purpose. It's not over. Prepare to leave it behind. I can't take it with me. So in that journey, it makes it a full cycle of life. You discover it, you train it and everything. Now we're on the preparation to leave it behind. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I said, what can I leave behind here that I think would be a legacy of something that I love? Well, I love the martial arts, Filipino martial arts especially. And one of the things I truly enjoyed that I got to develop it was the Karalbit. So why not leave and do a docu-series, a legacy project with the Karalbit? And that's how I came to that. I go, okay, great. I know what I'm doing. I've got my way of the Karalbit. But why don't I partner up with somebody else who inspired me? And that's why Karalbit Unleashed is my way of partnering up with another Filipino martial art luminary, because we understand each other, but we get to do our own things at the same time. Now let's bring it together and see how we can make it even better to leave behind. And that's the project. And in so doing, I get to revisit a lot of the things I used to do and how I've evolved from that, and how I've pretty much eliminated certain things that just don't fit me and added things that fit me, that I can teach, that I can get other people to emulate and copy, and that's the reason we're here. And so because of that, we're going to show you one of the ways that I get to train solo. So obviously I'm a Karalbit player, so today we're going to focus on the Karalbit for Karalbit Talk. This is my trainer. I'm not going to be cutting up anything. I'm just going to be moving around it to learn to move with the Karalbit, looking at this motion. It is the underhand thing with my flail. What is the flail? Flail so that I can direct the shot from a distance. If I just have it extended this way, that's my range. If I can flail it this way, that is the range I have. So you have as far as this, and I can go with a flick this way, right? So I'm not doing this, because if I hit something with this, I don't have control of where the Karalbit's going to go, and something that's sharp and everything else, you have to have full control. So when I flail, I lock it up. You see what my thumb locks it up, so there's pressure here. It's not going anywhere, right? And if I were to use the tree just to knock on wood, it's solid. It doesn't come out, right? So I can lock that. But if I need to retract my claw, I'm back in again. But what I love about this is the momentum of being able to move and feel free with this. One of the things that I think the reason why I like to flail a lot, because of my, my addiction to fidgeting and my addiction to having fun, is also it's like a startup. In neuro-linguistic programming, or in easier terms that we can say is, you ever hear certain music and it kind of puts you in a certain mindset? A certain feeling. When you hear sad songs, you get sad. Nostalgic songs, you get nostalgia or melancholy. Certain music will pump you up, right? All these things elicit a response auditorily, because it's music. If you see I see food, I smell things, you start to get hungry, like Pavlovian way of training, right? So when I do the same thing, when I start flipping and moving around, my body says, oh, he needs speed. Oh, he needs to move a certain way. That's what it does. That's why, for me, it's like starting up a lawnmower. Once I go, bram, 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 now I'm ready to go. Now, as I'm flipping on range here, I'm getting ready to move. My body says that way. Boxers do that. They start, okay, once I get this up and I check up here, says keep your up, the feeling of this. Or when people go, wow, and they lift their legs, it means or they start pumping themselves up. That's to get that response. The same thing happens when I start working on my Karalbit flail. It starts me up, right? Starts me up. It's nice. It's fun. It's a flow. Now, in my training, I try to do it just to have fun with the environment. So, if I were to find these guys here, as you can see, I'm going to go with ranging. First, I want to be able to range. So I know that if I can flail, I actually hit it. And I can feel the impact. I can feel the impact, I can do that. I can also pull the impact inside. Or I can also flail this way. I can flail to eject the Karalbit and then flail back. Or eject and then pull down, or then back. At any point, I have the distance into close range. Long range, close range. Long range, close range. Or long range, long range, long range, long range, long range, long range, long range. Just hacking with that, and then I'm back in again. So the beauty of this is having nature as your training partner helps. I got ranging of strike here where I'm parrying this as I go in the low line to the high line. Or I can low line and then to the high line. So a lot of that training that I have here, I can split areas to the outside, to the middle, to the outside this way. And I have my ways of movement using nature without hurting nature. Just saying thank you for being my training partner. And that's what I like to do. I like to be able to feel it as I'm walking, enjoying it, or sometimes learn to move around it as I'm working the topography, you know, working the footwork, working that I have to get a range, that I can just go like this and feel this as a strike, right? I'm able to know my ranging so that when I have my ranging, I'm not caught up in just the motion of where these things get in the way, because they could be other limbs that's also attracting and hitting me. So that's one of the things that I like to do in nature as I go on my little walks into train to feel alive. And all I'm using is nature. It's free. It's out there. You should try it because it feels good. You're feeling alive. And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. Now, this is my first time, kind of first time of trying this Instagram lives. Not really used to doing this. Man, it's hot though. All of a sudden it got real hot. But I enjoy this because I get to talk to people. I haven't really done much with Instagram except my goofy videos. But let's do some Q&As, right? There's a lot of cool countries here. I didn't realize we have Japan, Ukraine. I see Brazil. I see India. Thank you for saying hello. And what questions can I answer for you? So I'm going to do that just to be able to answer some questions as I find out. There's some request. What? You can request? Let's see. I'm just trying to see what these requests for videos are. Let me see. Ha! Interesting. So I'm getting some interesting views. I have not figured this out. But let's get some of the viewers to do this. I'm going to do EDC Spirit. That sounds cool. See what happens here. Go live with... Did it work? I guess not. Or maybe I thought that it did. Let me try again. We're going to have a surprise guest here because they disappeared. So let's try again, okay? Accept and go ringing. Is anybody there? Hello? Any video coming in? All right. Anyway, so Riverside. Hi, Doug. This is from Nathan, and it says, "Thank you for the Wave the Pen seminar in Riverside. You did a great job. You do not great job. Did I do a great job or not, Nathan? I really enjoyed doing the Wave the Pen because it's one of the things that I get to express that you can have one thing and do many things with it. You don't have to keep on reinventing the wheel. The body only moves for so much. What you do is you take what's given to you and you look at the attributes, right? If it's got a point, it can puncture. If it's got an edge, it can lacerate and cut. You know, if it's blunt and flat, it can do blunt force impact. If it's flexible, you can whip with it or you can wrap around with it. That's flexible weapons. If it's curved, like the Karalbit, that means it's going to hook and grab onto you. So you look at all this, and all of them can become projectile the minute you just throw it. And they can also be a mixture of the things that you pick up. So that's what you do when you're starting to put stuff together, because you start to realize that we can only do so much with our bodies. But once we understand how to look at the attributes of something that you pick up, then you can use it and make it effective. You just have to have that imagination again. So that's the beauty of what Kali is. Filipino martial arts, the difference with that and other arts is that we start off teaching you weapons from day one. Why? Why weapons? Well, it's a martial art that comes from combat. When we say combat, that means it's a battle. When we say combat, that means it's the use of weapons, not empty hand fighting that they think. There's never been a war that's ever been fought. 2,000 people, kickboxing, grappling, never happened, right? But somebody ruins the party by taking up a sword, bringing something, some kind of weapon in there. So knowing that, then in the Philippines, they figured, all right, let's get what we believe is a force multiplier, a weapon. Now, in the beginning, they'll think it's double stick, single knife, double karambit, espada y daga, stick and dagger. They relegate it to these particular subsystems of a particular tool. But as you start to get good at it, and especially when you start translating it into the empty hands, you start to realize these are tools, not weapons. For example, if I came down with this on the outside for a slash with a karambit, and I use empty hand, it would be a hack with that. If it was on this grip, it's going to be a hook and it's going to get caught in there. If it's just my elbow coming down this way, so if it's an empty hand with the elbow first, or the forearm, or the hand, or my finger, same motion, it just changes with the kind of weapon that you're using on that kind of destruction. But it's the same motion without the weapon. So if you understand that, then every tool is just a tool. The body stays the same. So I adjust according to the tool that I'm picking up, not the weapon, because I am the weapon. Everything I use is a tool. Let's say people go, what's the most effective weapon that you would carry? My brain. What's the most effective weapon? Me. What do I pick up? Tools. And I'm going to make it work that way. So that's the beauty, at least from what I look at when I talk about those different things. And then let's see some other questions here. The Prepper Dojo. I could talk all day about martial arts. I know we could talk all day just about the things we're passionate about. Martial arts is one of them, but I try to live my martial art. It's not something that I do as a hobby. When I think of instructors that or people that I trained with in my early years, that we were so addicted to what we were doing. Eventually, a lot of people just dropped out. They got busy with other things in their life. And there's very few of us that keep on doing this. And I think those of us that continued on have found a way to make martial arts or the passion that we do a part of our life. Not a part of our life, a way of life. The way we see things in martial art practice is the way we see things in real life practice. And for the most part, if you think about that, real life practice, martial artists using it every day. When people always ask me, Doug, have you ever used your martial arts? I know what you mean. Have I ever fought with it? Ever stabbed somebody? Ever cut someone in real life and all these things? That's the wrong way of looking at it. Instead, why am I still here despite doing very violent arts? Because I learned the reason for martial arts. It's not about when I first learned it, I want to learn how to do self-defense, to protect myself against a fight, to do this. And as I'm doing it, I realize, I'm going to learn not to use it because now I know why I don't want to fight. I know why I don't want to cut someone or pick up something. That destroys everything. So what is martial arts all about? It's a discipline that I show up every day. So I'm disciplined that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do that every day. There's one. Two, the idea of I could have all the knowledge in my head, but if I'm not healthy, I'm not going to be able to do any of it. So I have to also take care of myself. Now, I have a body, I take care of it. I have my mindset that I can put into practice. I'm in control. Now, it's not about just reaction. It's about knowing when to react and when not to react. So it's a control of my emotions. That's more important. If I wanted to live a simple and harmonious life, I don't get into fights. I avoid that. I know that I can move away. If I can run away from an opponent, I can run away from problems. If I know to start to see an opponent or danger and I feel my gut feeling, I know not to enter into bad deals. I know to know and feel danger by using my sixth sense that we develop in martial arts also, or that gut feeling, right? So when you start to have all these, you start to live the martial art. Live, not die. Because if I thought about this and everything else, oh yeah, it's a good martial arts, he actually used it in real life. Yeah, he's dead too. Or he killed somebody, or he's not functional in society. So martial arts is supposed to make you better in life, not bitter. If you get angry as you're training something, you're probably in the wrong group. You have to pick up. People ask me, what's a good martial art to do? Well, what's the kind of people that I want to hang around with that I would take home to my family? That's the kind of group that I want to study with. I don't look at a teacher. The teacher could be a good fighter. I look at the students. When I look at the students, I want to see their skill, because if I say 10 students and I see 2 guys are good, something's not right here. Those 2 guys might just be natural athletes. Why are the 8 not good? If I see 10 students and I see that 8 of them are good, this teacher can teach, because the students are a reflection of the teaching style of the teacher. Some people are just fighters, not teachers. Then I want to see their temperament. No Cobra Kai here. People will copy their teachers. It's a fact of life. They don't want to disappoint them. So are these the kind of people that I want to hang around with? Are these the kind of people I want to take home? And then when we judge everything in terms of, well, that teacher right there, he's never fought in a day in his life. He's just, all fantasy. There's a guy that you need to say, wow, he's the guy who understands what's going on. He's probably the kind of guy that I want to hang out with because he knows how to be a better father, a better friend, a better leader in society, and all that, rather than the one we hail and they're always getting into fights and everything else. They can't function. They can't even have friends. They always want to fight everyone. Is that the kind of thing you want to take home to your family and teach your kids? Let's get into fights every day. Probably not the thing, right? Anyways, that's one of the things that I wanted to say. Hello, Natalie from France. And of course, I would never qualify as a student. We're all students in life. That's a knife, 5117. We're all students in life. Everything is student, and here's the thing. If you don't have a teacher in your area, get videos. You can learn from videos. Oh, can you learn from videos? We all learn from watching. From childhood, we watch people, we watch our parents, we learn from that. I never had the same teacher in the same place I've ever been. Never. So I always recorded what I had, trained it on my own, teach my family members, everything, create your own group, and then come back and train again. Then you develop your own school, you develop your own group. Oh, the guidance of the teacher wasn't there. Am I good enough to teach? It's by teaching that you learn. You see, sometimes when you start teaching, if people are watching, they'll ask you questions. I have to defend my question. And if I don't know the answer, I know where to look for it. But I'm not afraid to project what it is I know, because when I do that, I also project and realize what I don't know. Where am I lacking? And let me find that information to start training. See, teaching is just sharing of information with people that you want to learn with. And you get good at it when you're self-teaching. On-the-job training happens all the time. So do not listen to say, you're just making stuff up, or you can't learn on your own, or that. No, we can all learn. We go to teachers who are guides. They will guide us. That's their job. That's all they're going to do is guide you. They're not going to test it for you. You got to still do the work yourself. But they're there. What's the guidance for? If I can learn from others? Well, sometimes the guidance is there because life experience. They know, you need time to practice this to get good at it. I'll give you all the knowledge in the world, but if your body's not prepared for it, it won't matter. Or if your understanding is not there, it won't matter. There's a lot of things that I learned in the early years thinking it was one thing, that 4 years later on, it hit me. I go, wow, all this time, I did not realize that's what my teacher meant. I learned other things from it, but he meant this. And why is that? Because I needed life experience. I needed to do it more enough to be able to understand it. I had a different understanding then than I do now. That's why it's always good to go back to the basics, to go back to the things that you've done, because you will always constantly evolve, and so will your understanding of something. That's why certain things I've changed. I'm not going to do that anymore. Why? I was just copying my teacher. I didn't truly understand what was going on. And some of the moves that they were doing was for them, or it was maybe just a certain look. I want function. So I'm going to do this and do this a different way, just to get the same result without maybe putting myself in harm's way, or maybe putting my students in harm's way. There are easier ways to do this for the same desired effect. And that's one of the things that I learned when you're always constantly teaching and testing things on your own. Here we go. From Torian Strategies. I see that you are open to doing seminars again. Would you reconsider partnering up with Bram? And I do a weekend seminar here in Miami. Well, I've spoken to Bram about it. And he is we're talking about Bram Frank. He's a grandmaster of Filipino martial arts. He is a genius. And a lot of his systems, you got to check him out, Bram Frank. Not only that, I use a lot of his patents for my knives because he's got the Bram, which I use for my opening. But yes, I definitely have spoken to him about it. It's just that I've gotten these other projects ahead of that. And eventually, as part of this whole docuseries of, basically the Karalbit series, I'm going to be talking and bringing him in also, because we're going to talk about the people who've influenced us in doing that. Anyway, folks, this is my time up. I got to keep on going, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'll catch you again. Thank you for being here for my first ever training session with you guys. Right? Take care and have a good day. Oops. All right, so now I'm going to try to figure out how this works. That's not work. I'm still here. And boop. Take care, guys.